Growing up, I never had a Sega Genesis as a kid, but I was lucky enough to play one for an entire summer in 1997. Not only was I able to play it, I was able to play one that had the Sega Channel enabled, which was an online gaming service for the Sega Genesis which would allow you to play different sets of games each month. This allowed me to play quite a few games on a console that I never owned. One of the games I played on this service stood out as my favorite, General Chaos. General Chaos is a real-time strategy game released in 1994, published by EA and developed by Game Refugee. Game Refugee had an extremely small staff on this game with only 22 people, and only a single programmer for the entire game. The game was pretty mind-blowing on release because the game came out the same year as the original Warcraft, and a year before any Command & Conquer game, so seeing an RTS-style game on a console, much less a 16-bit console, was like seeing a unicorn. Unlike many other console RTS games of the era, we never asked for this! This game was actually really playable, converting a more hardcore genre like the RTS to a more playable arcade-style strategy game that could be enjoyed with 2 players. Keeping every level on only one screen helps the game as it keeps the game from being overly complicated. The game has 2 completely different control styles. When playing the game alone, you'll use a cursor to select where your troops will move, and once in the location they'll begin auto-attacking. There's another control style where you command 2 soldiers in a battle versus 5, and you'll have more direct control of them. You'll control how they move and the direction they attack in. Usually it's really hard to win a 2v5 fight, but when you're playing with a friend and each one's controlling one of the 2 troopers, it's totally possible and it's a load of fun. This game actually supports up to 4 people if you have a multi-tap. This game really does shine with multiplayer, so if you can find someone to play it with, it's highly recommended. Aside from auto-attacking to attack, if 2 opposing soldiers get within a close range, melee combat will be initiated, where all the fighting across the board stops and the 2 soldiers duke it out fisticuffs. It's really easy to mash a button and kill your opponent, however that almost will always result in them hopping up right after dying and shooting you with a pistol, resulting in instant death. So, when fighting in this mode, you have to let your opponent hit you a few times and make sure your health is down to about 1 or 2 before finishing them off, or else it'll auto-kill you. Before each battle, you're given the choice of 4 different squads you can choose for each fight, and this will greatly affect your ability to win. Each of these squads will have 2 to 5 soldiers of various classes. This adds quite a bit of strategy to your selection to your team because every class has some big pros and cons. The Gunner class is just a guy with a machine gun that has a decent range and attack speed, however his gun can jam, which can leave him vulnerable. The Launcher has the longest range in class, however he has a really low attack speed and his attacks can be stopped by cover. The Chucker is a grenade class that has a slow attack, however his grenades can go over cover. The Scorcher is a flamethrower class that does extremely high damage. However, he has the lowest range, and he can also attack multiple targets at the same time. If he goes in water, his weapon will be neutralized for a short period of time. The Blaster is a class similar to the Chucker, however he throws dynamite instead of grenades. He has one of the highest attack damages in the game, however he has the second shortest range as well as one of the longest attack speeds, making him the worst of all classes. After the game's release in 1994, the director of the TV series, Hogan's Heroes, sued EA due to some quotes used in the game. The lawsuit, however, ended up flopping a few months later. On September 6th of 2013, a Kickstarter campaign was started to try and fund a sequel to the game. However, in the 1 month it ran on Kickstarter, it only managed to reach 12% of the $125,000 goal. Graphically, this game looks a little dated for a 1994 game. The game appears to only have slightly better graphics than some late-run NES titles. A lot of the sprites just aren't sharp, and they lack any real definition. This could be because of how much is going on the screen, but it still looks mushy and undefined. The audio, unfortunately, in this game is awful. The game only has 1 song on the entire thing, and it's the intro music that plays when you turn it on. The rest of the game is completely silent, except for the gun noises in combat. The game was obviously made to be enjoyed with your own music collection, so in order to get the true 1994 experience with this game, make sure you pick up Ace of Base's Happy Nation and blast the sign on repeat while you play this game. As with almost all Sega Genesis games, General Chaos is fairly cheap. According to PriceCharting.com, a loose copy of this game will set you about $14. I picked up my copy last summer for about $15, and this is one of the Genesis games that I've been stockpiling, waiting for the Retron 5 to come out. General Chaos is an awesome strategy game that's aged pretty decently. I would totally consider this game to be a hidden gem on the Sega Genesis. This game is amazingly unique from a time forgotten, If you have a Sega Genesis or plan to get a Retron, this unique game is totally worth checking out and adding to your collection.